Deep in the void between Orion's belt and the Pleiades, Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of her modest corvette, the Starweaver. Her weathered hands traced the smooth metal railing as she watched her small fleet of 37 ships moving in perfect formation through the star-studded darkness. Some would call it a ragtag assembly. Civilian vessels retrofitted with military-grade shields, cargo haulers transformed into makeshift carriers, and mining ships repurposed as missile platforms. But to Sarah, they represented humanity's last, best hope. The alien transmission had been clear: surrender Earth's resources or face annihilation. The Zentari Collective, with their massive dreadnoughts and energy weapons that could crack planets, had expected immediate compliance. After all, what could a species that had barely mastered interstellar travel do against an empire that spanned 3 galactic arms? Captain, incoming transmission from the Zentari flagship. Lieutenant David Rivera's voice crackled through the command deck's speakers. Sarah straightened her well-worn uniform jacket, a habit from her merchant marine days. "Put them through," she ordered, her voice steady despite the weight of 3 billion lives depending on this moment. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing High Commander Xelthor's towering, crystalline form. His multifaceted eyes regarded Sarah with what she could only interpret as amusement. "Your species continues to perplex us, Captain Chen. You were given an opportunity for a dignified surrender, yet you send this diminutive fleet to challenge us? Our smallest battle group could vaporize your entire formation with a single volley." Sarah allowed herself a slight smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Perhaps, Commander, but you might want to take a closer look at what these tiny ships can do." She nodded to Rivera, who initiated the sequence they'd spent months preparing. Across her fleet, hundreds of cargo bay doors slid open in perfect synchronization. The Zentari sensors must have been going haywire as they detected thousands of small, fast-moving objects emerging from the human vessels. What appeared to be space debris and routine maintenance drones suddenly revealed themselves as something far more ingenious and deadly. Impossible. Xelthor's crystalline form shifted colors rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Your technology level, you shouldn't be capable of." "Necessity breeds innovation, Commander," Sarah interrupted, watching as her fleet's secret weapon began to demonstrate exactly why humanity had survived countless challenges throughout its history. "While you were busy building bigger ships and more powerful weapons, we were thinking smaller, much smaller." The first wave of what Sarah affectionately called her stellar hornets made contact with the nearest Zentari cruiser. These microships, each piloted by a sophisticated but non-sentient AI core, carried payloads that would make Earth's ancient Navy SEALs proud. The Zentari's mighty energy shields, designed to repel capital ship weapons, proved utterly useless against threats smaller than most scanning systems could detect. "You see, Commander," Sarah continued, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's determination, "humans have a long history of being underestimated. We've learned to use that to our advantage." She watched as confusion spread through the Zentari fleet, their massive ships beginning to break formation as they struggled to track and counter the swarm of microscopic attackers. The bridge of the Starweaver fell silent as Sarah's crew watched the unfolding chaos. Their months of preparation, the countless sleepless nights, and the combined ingenuity of Earth's best minds had led to this moment. But as the first Zentari vessel's engines began to sputter and die, Sarah knew this was only the beginning. The real question wasn't whether humanity could surprise their technologically superior adversaries. They had already accomplished that. The question was whether this one decisive advantage would be enough to turn the tide of an entire war. The Starweaver's tactical display lit up like a Christmas tree as the Zentari fleet scrambled to respond. Sarah watched as their massive ships, each the size of a small city, attempted to reorganize into a defensive formation. But their movements were too slow, too predictable, exactly as Earth's strategists had anticipated. Decades of relying on overwhelming force had left the Zentari vulnerable to unconventional warfare. "Status report on the Hornets," Sarah called out, her eyes fixed on the nearest Zentari cruiser as it struggled against the invisible swarm. Technical Officer Mai Zhang's fingers danced across her console, pulling up streams of data. 87% of first-wave Hornets are still operational, Captain. They're targeting propulsion systems and external sensor arrays as planned. The Centauri point defense systems can't track them effectively. Sarah nodded, remembering the countless simulation runs that had led to this strategy. Earth's scientists had discovered that the Centauri's advanced technology actually worked against them in this instance. Their sensors were calibrated for detecting large-scale threats, capital ships, energy weapons, and conventional torpedoes. The Hornets, barely larger than ancient Earth satellites, operated in their blind spots. Captain, Rivera's voice carried an edge of urgency. The Centauri are launching fighter squadrons. Looks like they're hoping smaller ships might have better luck. Sarah had expected this. It was time for Phase 2. Signal the mining vessels to begin their run, she ordered, watching as 5 retrofitted asteroid haulers broke formation and accelerated toward the space between the fleets. The mining ships had been gutted, their massive cargo holds filled with a specialized material that Earth's engineers had dubbed stellar chaff. Millions of microscopic reflective particles designed to play havoc with sensors and targeting systems. As the haulers released their payload, the space between the fleets became a glittering cloud of confusion. "Commander Zelthor is hailing us again," Rivera reported, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Sarah straightened her jacket once more. On screen, the Centauri commander's crystalline form had shifted to a deep amber, a color Sarah's xenobiologists had associated with rage or frustration. "Your tactics are primitive." Zelthor's voice resonated with barely contained fury. "You turn space combat into some kind of tribal guerrilla warfare. This is not how civilized species conduct battle." Sarah couldn't help but smile at that irony. Civilized? You threatened to annihilate our planet if we didn't submit to your demands. "I'd say that ship has sailed, Commander." Through the viewport, Sarah could see the Centauri fighters struggling to navigate through the chaff cloud, their advanced targeting systems rendered nearly useless by the countless false signatures. Meanwhile, the Hornets continued their relentless assault on the capital ships, targeting crucial external systems with surgical precision. "Lieutenant Zhang," Sarah called out, "status on their flagship's shield generators." May consulted her readings. The Hornets have compromised 3 of their 6 primary generators. They're trying to compensate by routing more power to the remaining ones, but it's putting tremendous strain on their systems. This was the moment Sarah had been waiting for, but she forced herself to remain patient. The plan required precise timing, and rushing it now could undo everything they'd achieved. The Centauri still had enough firepower to obliterate her fleet if they got lucky, and humanity couldn't afford to lose these ships, or the technology they carried. "Captain," Rivera's voice cut through her thoughts, "we're picking up unusual energy readings from the Centauri flagship. They're charging something big." Sarah's heart raced as she studied the readings. This wasn't in any of their intelligence reports. The Centauri were about to reveal yet another surprise, and suddenly she wasn't sure if all their careful planning would be enough to counter it. The energy readings from the Centauri flagship pulsed with an ominous rhythm, each surge stronger than the last. Sarah's mind raced through possible countermeasures as warning indicators flashed across the Starweaver's bridge displays. Whatever weapon the Centauri were charging, it was unlike anything Earth's intelligence had encountered during their previous skirmishes. "All ships execute scatter pattern Delta," Sarah commanded, her voice cutting through the tension on the bridge. The human fleet responded instantly, breaking their tight formation into seemingly random vectors. Years of drilling had made their movements appear chaotic to outside observers, but each ship knew its precise role in the elaborate dance they were about to perform. Energy buildup reaching critical levels, Jane reported, her fingers moving rapidly across her console. "The signature suggests some kind of gravitational weapon." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Centauri had been holding back, waiting to unveil their trump card. But they had made one critical mistake. They had given her crew time to adapt. "Launch the second wave of Hornets," Sarah ordered. "All ships, redirect power to inertial dampeners." She watched as fresh swarms of microships emerged from the human fleet's cargo bays, their trajectories calculated to take advantage of the stellar chaff still clouding the battlefield. The tiny vessels moved with purpose, targeting specific points on the Zentari flagship's hull that their first wave had identified as structural weaknesses. The massive alien vessel's crystalline surface began to glow with an otherworldly light, spreading from its bow like frost across a window. "They're targeting the center of our formation," Rivera warned, his tactical display highlighting the projected impact zone. But Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Their center was now empty, their ships spread out in a complex three-dimensional pattern. Multiple Zentari cruisers moving to support positions around their flagship, Zhang reported. "They're creating some kind of resonance field." Sarah nodded grimly. The aliens were coordinating their ships to amplify whatever effect they were about to unleash. It was exactly the kind of sophisticated tactic that had made them so formidable against conventional forces. "Captain," Rivera's voice carried an urgent edge, "we're detecting power surges in their secondary ships as well. This isn't just the flagship anymore. They're linking their entire battle group into whatever this weapon is." Sarah's hands gripped the command rail tighter. The Zentari were about to demonstrate why they had conquered 3 galactic arms, and her fleet's carefully planned strategy was about to face its ultimate test. The space between the fleets began to distort visibly, light bending in ways that defied natural law. Sarah could feel a subtle vibration through the deck plates beneath her feet, despite their distance from the phenomenon. The Zentari were literally warping the fabric of space itself, turning it into a weapon. "All ships, maintain scatter formation," Sarah commanded, forcing steadiness into her voice. "Hornet squadrons, continue your assigned attack vectors." She watched as her tiny warriors pressed their assault, even as the space around them began to twist and ripple. Earth had bet everything on this strategy, on the belief that sometimes the smallest things could change the course of history. The Zentari flagship's glow reached blinding intensity, its crystalline surface now resembling a star about to go nova. Commander Zelthor's final transmission cut through all channels, his voice resonating with both fury and triumph. "Observe, primitives, what true mastery of space-time looks like. Let this be humanity's final lesson in the futility of resistance." Sarah watched as the distortion reached its peak, reality itself seeming to fold around the Zentari battle group. But as the aliens prepared to unleash their superweapon, she noticed something they hadn't: a subtle fluctuation in their linked shield harmonics, a weakness created by their very attempt to combine their powers. Now she just had to hope that her next order wouldn't be her last. "All ships, initiate Protocol Omega," Sarah broadcast across the fleet's secure channel. "Authorization Chen 7 Delta." She had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but the Zentari's gravitational weapon had forced her hand. Across her fleet, hidden compartments began to open, revealing technology that even most of her own crew hadn't known existed. "Captain," Zhang's voice wavered slightly, "are you sure? The quantum resonators haven't been tested at this scale." Sarah understood her officer's concern. The devices they were about to activate represented humanity's greatest scientific achievement, and potentially their greatest risk. "We're out of options, Lieutenant. Sometimes you have to roll the dice." The Hornets suddenly shifted their attack pattern, their seemingly random movements coalescing into precise geometric formations around the Zentari ships. Each microship now carried a fraction of the quantum field that Earth's scientists had theorized could disrupt the aliens' space-time weapon. It was like trying to stop a tsunami with a web of spider silk. Impossible by conventional physics, but humanity had long since abandoned conventional thinking. "Energy levels in the Zentari weapon grid are exceeding our sensors' ability to measure," Rivera reported, his display showing nothing but error messages. The distortion field had grown so intense that direct visual observation through the viewport was becoming difficult. Reality itself seemed to be folding like origami in the hands of a master. Then Sarah saw it, the fluctuation she'd been waiting for. As the Zentari battle group channeled more power into their combined weapon, microscopic instabilities appeared in their shield harmonics. The very act of linking their systems had created tiny vulnerabilities, each one barely larger than a hornet. "Now," she commanded, "activate the resonators." Across the battlefield, thousands of hornets simultaneously engaged their quantum devices. The effect was subtle at first, a slight shimmer in the distortion field, like ripples in a pond. But as the quantum frequencies aligned, something unexpected happened. The Zentary's gravitational weapon began to interact with the human countermeasure in ways that neither side had predicted. "Captain," Zhang's voice rose with alarm. "The quantum field is creating some kind of feedback loop with their weapon. The space-time distortions they're reflecting back onto the Zentary ships." Sarah watched in amazement as the aliens' own weapon began to turn against them, their precisely calculated gravitational effects becoming increasingly chaotic. But victory wasn't assured yet. The feedback was affecting both fleets, causing systems to behave in unpredictable ways. "Multiple Hornets losing containment," Riviera reported. "The quantum field is becoming unstable." Sarah had known this was a possibility. They were playing with forces that humanity barely understood. A new transmission cut through the chaos, but it wasn't from Selthor. Sarah's blood ran cold as she recognized the signature. "This is Admiral Chorus of the Zentari Second Fleet," the crystalline voice announced. "Our long-range sensors detected weapons of mass destruction. The reinforcement fleet has been dispatched. Surrender now, or face complete annihilation." Sarah's tactical display updated to show multiple jump signatures approaching from the outer system. The Zentari had hidden reserves, waiting to see if their first wave would need support. Now her fleet was caught between a destabilizing quantum catastrophe and an incoming armada. She looked at the faces of her bridge crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination she felt. "Captain," Zhang said quietly, "I'm detecting something else in the quantum field. The resonance patterns. They're not just disrupting the Zentari weapon. They're creating something." Sarah turned back to the viewport, watching as reality itself seemed to twist in new and impossible ways. Whatever was forming in the space between the fleets, it would either be humanity's salvation or their doom. Sarah stared at the swirling quantum distortions, her mind racing as the Zentari reinforcements drew closer. But something about the patterns forming in space caught her attention. They weren't random. The interaction between their resonators and the alien weapon had created something that defied explanation, yet seemed hauntingly familiar. "All ships, maintain quantum field integrity," she ordered, her eyes fixed on the phenomenon. "Lieutenant John, analyze those patterns. They remind me of something from the Earth archives." John worked furiously at her console, comparing the spatial distortions to known scientific records. Her sharp intake of breath told Sarah she'd found the connection. "Captain, the quantum patterns. They're matching theoretical models from the Morrison Deep Space Initiative, the ones that were abandoned because they were deemed impossible." Sarah's heart raced as the pieces fell into place. 30 years ago, Earth scientists had theorized a way to manipulate space-time, but lacked the energy and technology to achieve it. Now, inadvertently, the Zentari had provided both. Incoming fire from the Second Fleet. Riviera shouted. Energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships, but as they passed through the quantum field, something extraordinary happened. The weapon's fire curved and distorted, following the patterns that now filled the battlefield. Sarah watched in amazement as the Zentari's own attacks were caught in the growing spatial anomaly. "Captain," John's voice trembled with excitement, "the quantum field. It's not just disrupting their weapons. We've accidentally created a temporal reflection matrix. The Morrison theories were right." Sarah allowed herself a brief smile as understanding dawned. They hadn't just built a defense. They'd stumbled upon something far more significant. "All ships, full power to the quantum resonators," Sarah commanded. "Focus the field on these coordinates." She transmitted the calculations that were forming in her mind, a desperate gamble based on decades-old theoretical physics. The human fleet responded as one, their hornet swarms adjusting position with precision that would have been impossible just a few years ago. The effect was immediate and stunning. The quantum field condensed, forming a vast geometric pattern that pulsed with otherworldly energy. The Zentari ships, both the original battle group and the approaching reinforcements, found themselves caught in its web. Their mighty weapons, designed to break worlds, only served to strengthen the phenomenon they'd helped create. Centauri vessels showing critical power fluctuations, Rivera reported his tactical display a chaos of warning indicators. Their linked systems are feeding into the quantum matrix. The aliens' attempt to combine their weapons had backfired spectacularly, creating a cascade effect that threatened their entire fleet. Commander Zelthor's final transmission was filled with something Sarah had never heard in a Centauri voice before. Fear. What have you done? This defies all known physics. Sarah kept her calm, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. No, Commander. It defies your physics. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to imagine the impossible and then make it reality. The quantum matrix reached critical mass, its geometric patterns now visible even to the naked eye. In a flash of light that briefly rivaled a sun, the space around the Centauri fleet collapsed in on itself. When the light faded, their mighty ships were gone, transported to what the Morrison theories suggested would be the outer edges of the galaxy. But as her crew began to celebrate, Sarah noticed something in the fading quantum field. The patterns hadn't completely disappeared. They were stabilizing, forming permanent changes in the fabric of space itself. Earth hadn't just won a battle. They'd accidentally discovered something that would change the course of human history forever. Captain, Jane called out, her voice filled with wonder. These quantum signatures, they're forming stable pathways through space-time. We've created something like the theoretical Einstein-Rosen bridges, but controllable, stable. Sarah nodded, watching as the patterns solidified. In their desperate bid for survival, humanity had stumbled upon the key to faster-than-light travel, and the stars themselves were now within their reach. As the quantum pathways stabilized in space, the bridge of the Star Weaver fell into a reverent silence. Sarah watched the swirling patterns through the viewport, each one a testament to humanity's accidental leap into a new era of space travel. The Hornets, their primary mission complete, began returning to their carrier ships in precise formations, their tiny forms glinting in the starlight. Status report on the quantum corridors, Sarah called out, still hardly believing what they were seeing. Zhang's fingers danced across her console, analyzing the unprecedented phenomena. They're completely stable, Captain. Early readings suggest they're self-sustaining, requiring minimal energy to maintain. We're detecting at least 7 distinct pathways, each leading to different sectors of the galaxy. Rivera cleared his throat, drawing Sarah's attention to the tactical display. Long-range scans confirm the Centauri fleet's displacement. They've been transported to the Carina Arm, just as the Morrison theories predicted. It'll take them years to return, even with their advanced drives. He paused, a slight smile crossing his face. Assuming they want to risk another encounter with our tiny fleet. Sarah opened a channel to all ships in the human fleet. This is Captain Chen. What we've accomplished today goes beyond victory in battle. We've opened a door that humanity has dreamed of since we first looked up at the stars. Every person in this fleet, from bridge crew to engineering, played a part in this discovery. Earth Command will want detailed reports, but for now, she allowed herself a moment to feel the full weight of their achievement. For now, let's take a moment to appreciate that sometimes the greatest discoveries come when we're pushed to our absolute limits. The quantum corridors continue to shimmer against the backdrop of space, their geometric patterns reminiscent of Earth's ancient sacred geometry. Sarah couldn't help but wonder if their ancestors had somehow sensed these fundamental patterns of the universe, encoding them in their art and architecture centuries before humanity had the science to understand them. Captain, Jane interrupted her thoughts. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the quantum pathways. They're communicating with each other, creating a network. Sarah moved to Zhang's station, studying the readings. The pathways weren't just stable corridors through space. They were forming connections, building something far more complex than anyone could have anticipated. It's like they're creating a map, Rivera observed, his tactical display showing the growing network of quantum connections, not just to distant parts of our galaxy, but potentially, he trailed off, the implications almost too vast to contemplate. Sarah understood. They hadn't just created a new form of space travel. They'd discovered a way to navigate the very architecture of the universe itself. As the fleet began their journey home, Sarah took one last look at the quantum network through the viewport. Humanity had entered this battle as underdogs, armed with nothing but ingenuity and desperate courage. They emerged not just as victors, but as pioneers of a technology that would reshape their destiny among the stars. "Plot a course for Earth," she ordered, her voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who knew that every end was just another beginning, "and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "tell them that the stars are no longer out of reach." The Star Weaver's engines hummed to life as they turned toward home, leaving behind the battlefield that had become humanity's gateway to the cosmos. The quantum pathways pulsed with possibilities, a testament to the truth that Sarah had always believed. Sometimes the smallest fleet, armed with nothing but human determination and creativity, could change the very fabric of the universe itself.